Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the channel of the Informant. Here, bringing you the latest updates here in politics, not only in the U.S. but across the world. And of course, as usual, I am still struggling on getting these videos out in a timely manner, and this one was a little harder because I wanted to ensure that I had all of the screen grabs and, pieces of information in order for me to get everything I wanted into this one video, which you could see in the title is Our Rights Are Absolute. And, this is something this is probably one of my biggest beliefs, issues, points of discussion that I like to make. Well, not that I like to make, but that I hold closest to me is our constitutional rights and all of that good stuff. And I know I've had a lot of issues keeping this channel up to this channel up to date and these videos up to date, but life gets in the way. This isn't a job or anything like that. This is just something that I feel like doing, that I like doing, and of course, if it were to turn into one, I would not be opposed to doing so. But I have no control over that outside of the work that I put into the videos. It's up to the people who, if they are entertained by these videos. That's literally what it comes down to. So I do my best. I'm not the best at it, but I like talking about this type of stuff. So that's why I continue to do it, even though it takes me way too long to actually produce content. But with that long intro aside, I want to thank you all for tuning back in. So obviously there is a ton going on right now. The economy is in shambles. Inflation is at a 40-year high, if not an all-time high. Gas prices at a record national average high. The war in Ukraine seems to be pretty much falling apart for the neocons and the globalists, and our rights are under direct attack. If it wasn't already made evident, already at the start of this Biden train wreck presidency that we've been succumbed to, so this was probably the first thing that made me realize I got to make a video on this, was when he came out and said, right here, as you can see on your screen, is the title screen that I'm leading with. Biden says Second Amendment is, quote, not absolute, in impassioned call to reinstate assault weapons ban. Now, first off, I want to clear the air here with this catchphrase that everybody is talking about, assault weapons. All right, well, what exactly do they mean, assault weapons? What exactly do they mean by that? Anytime anybody says anything about assault weapons, I want to ask them, what do you mean by assault weapons? Because honestly, if you want to get literal about this, assault weapons means literally nothing. Like any kind of means you can assault somebody with it. Is that what you mean by it? Because if that's the case, a hammer is an assault weapon. A knife is an assault weapon. Anything is an assault weapon. A car of peace is an assault weapon, or like that one SUV that was up in Michigan. That could be, I guess, an assault weapon because it definitely delivered some assault. So assault weapons is a meaningless term, in my opinion, and it's nothing more than a political catchphrase to try and get people to one side. So this whole assault weapons ban is utterly useless, and it means absolutely nothing to me. And anybody who keeps using it, I think that they have no idea. I believe that they have no idea what they're talking about. Now, if you were to ask someone this and they were to come out and say, well, I mean, weapons of war, weapons of war. Okay. Does that mean the Colt 19 as well? Does that mean, the sidearms for soldiers? Because all soldiers are armed with a sidearm. Does that mean that's a weapon of war as well? And also, let me go ahead and tell you that the weapons of war that you're talking about are not sold to citizens because they are fully automatic and they carry a much deadlier punch than the AR-15. So you're wrong there as well. And when you mean weapon of war, do you mean the K-bar combat knife that soldiers carry into battle as well as a last resort? Is that considered a weapon of war now too? Do we need to ban the K-bar? I mean, these are honest questions when they say weapons of war. So are we just going to ban all weapons of war or only some? So this is the can of worms that these idiots open when they start talking about things they don't understand. But honestly, I feel a little disingenuous saying that they don't understand it because I think they honestly do know what they're saying and they're doing it on purpose. They're trying to cast on a fishing net over this entire thing in order to completely disarm the populace, like we've seen in Canada, like we've seen in Australia, like we've seen in China, like we've seen in New Zealand, like we've seen across Europe. I mean, and look where those countries are now. The one of the last countries on earth where you can legally carry, legally keep and bear arms is here in the United States. And they are drastically trying to take that away from everybody in this country for obvious reasons. I'm not going to say anything else on that. I'm just going to say for obvious reasons. And when they say that we're trying to, save kids, save children, I'm like, okay, I get it. These terrible things that have happened over the past few weeks and over the past years, because it's not just what recently happened in Uvalde. This has happened periodically over the last few years. I think honestly all of this starts at the home. Okay, if we want to really bear this down, like I know I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but Jordan Peterson, and I know I'm going to get roasted for this, but look, no matter what you think of Jordan Peterson, his advice, his lectures helped me out of a really, really bad place. So, and it got me to where I am now. So whatever you have to say negative about him, hey, that's fine. That's your opinion. But he helped me be who I am right now. So I think that's a net positive. But he said in one of his lectures, he said he was quoting someone else, and I can't remember the name, but the quote was, "In a massacre, there's no decent place to stand." So basically what he meant by that is you find yourself in a certain situation, you have to ask yourself, how did I get here? And then you have to trace that back through your decisions that led you to that point and find out where it all started. And so I look at that in the same way of these terrible incidents that have happened at schools, and not just schools, but other public places as well, and figure out, okay, how did this person end up to this point? And I think we can all agree that mental illness plays a part into it. And you have to trace it back. And I'm not trying to say lay the blame on the parents, because, in most cases that's not fair, because the parents, they had no control over the situation as far as like they did what they could, and maybe they didn't have all the information they needed. Maybe they missed something. There's always gaps in these scenarios that somebody missed somewhere, but that the next escalation is supposed to pick up on. And a lot of times, I have to say it's law enforcement not doing their job. If a lot of these kids were their first run-in with the law on a semi-serious nature, if they were to have an actual record, instead of just letting them off or letting them go or giving them a slap on the wrist, but no official charges that's going to stick with them into their adult years. There's certain things, and I think some of you can pick up on this. There are certain things that certain incidents like this where you can trace back to, some of these individuals having run-ins with the police, where the police were incentivized not to charge them with certain things, and that rings true wholeheartedly to right now. So you have to work yourself back to where this all started. And from what I understand, this teenager in Uvalde was living with his grandparents. Mother nowhere to be found. Father was absent, and I believe the father actually took. I think the father, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong on this. You can fact check me in the comments section, but I do believe there was an article where the father said, I feel like the blame should be on me as well. Like I am just as guilty as my son, or something like that, because he knew he failed. And you know what? That takes a lot of balls to come out and say something like that. A lot of parents come out and say, "Oh, we had no idea. We did everything we could," and but this father just straight out said, "No, man, I dropped the ball. Like this. I'm just as guilty as my son." And honestly, that man has to carry that for the rest of his life. And I think it takes a lot of guts to come out and say something like that. Like, this is my fault too. I failed my son, and I'm not saying it's entirely his fault. But he feels like it's his fault. And there are several instances that just do not add up in these situations. I know I'm getting kind of off topic here. I'm talking about a lot of tragedies here, but this is what's led us to this point. Now, when Biden says that our rights are not absolute, that honestly infuriated me so much. Like, oh my God, you are making me so angry when I hear this stuff. Because that's exactly how situations like the Bolshevik Revolution, and then the rise of communism and the secret police and across all of Europe, the Stasi, it's how it all started. And the next thing you know, you're being ratted out by your neighbors for talking negatively about the state. And next thing you know, off to the work camp you go, and to some extent, we're seeing that already with certain individuals. So, I'd like to take us to a little thing called the Bill of Rights. So right here in the preamble, it says, quote, "The conventions of a number of the states having, at the time of their adopting of the Constitution, expressed a desire, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensure the beneficent ends of its institution." So right there in the preamble, it's saying that the only way that these founding fathers would have agreed to this sort of thing is if that there was a Bill of Rights written into the Constitution that permanently guaranteed the rights of American citizens against the government in order for them not to have any kind of overreach, aka a tyrant king over the people, which is exactly what they fought against. So when I hear somebody say that our rights are not absolute, I just think about this preamble right here and just be all like, geez Louise, like people in the revolutionary days would be calling this man a tyrant, and to have him arrested and removed from any position that he was in immediately. Like, this is not something that you play around with. So we come down to the amendments here. So we'll come down to where they don't have the actual... I had a full definition because this is just lazy. Like, come on. This is supposed to be the National Archives. All right, give me a second. All right, apologies about that. I thought I had everything I needed right there, but it obviously wasn't the case. So if we look at the Second Amendment, and this is something that a lot of people tend to not understand of the writing of this amendment. So a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, that's the real important term right there, state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So a lot of people honestly believe that they are talking about a militia, aka a National Guard or something along those lines, and it's like, no, you're wrong. The entire reason why they said militia in those days was because of each state having volunteers, civilians, to fight against the British in a militia separate from the actual colonial continental army. And the commas here are the most important part because it separates statements. So right here, a well-relegated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, and then the right here, they wouldn't have said they wouldn't have said this here if they didn't mean the people, like the actual people, the citizens, if they meant only the militia, because it would have been like the right of the militia to keep and bear arms should not be infringed, which means that every state would have a actual, list of militia, but by this point they would be beholden to the government, which essentially, in my opinion, what the National Guard is at this point. But right here, the wording of it is specific. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And the reason why they said that was exactly because of the reality that they were in when they were facing the British Empire. They knew they needed more than their continental regulars. They needed everyday men and young men to be willing to sacrifice their livelihood in order to take up arms to fight for their independence from the English. So right here, it's in my opinion, it's clear as day, and I don't understand how people don't see it. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So right there in black and white, or in this case purple, you have it where it says the right of the people, everyday people who would initially be volunteers, and if SHTF, to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, hands down. And then like Biden wants to go out and say these stupid comments like you couldn't have a cannon in those days. It's all like, well, yeah, of course not. Like, what? Well, I mean, technically you probably could, but it's not like guys were running around back then saying I need a Napoleon or a long barrel or a smoothbore, like this, like that comment is so stupid it's almost not worthy of a response. But like, equating a cannon to like today's standards is like, when you're talking about the Second Amendment when it was written, is so dumb. It's like saying people can't buy a tank these days. Like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about handguns and rifles and shotguns, and that's it. We're not talking about cannons, Joe. Come back to reality, please. As a matter of fact, I don't think that's possible at this point. So right then and there, that's what it boils down to, is that it's the right of the people, because the people were the militia. That's what they were. They were volunteers who said, okay, I will suspend my free life here as a farmer, as a merchant, as whatever, shopkeeper, blacksmith. I will suspend my freedom as an individual citizen, and I will fight the enemy with whatever weapons that I may have. And that's essentially what it is. It's not just talking about a militia. It's talking about the people who will come together in a time of crisis and a time of need. So I don't want to hear this crap about it just being, well, they only meant about a militia, and it's like, what militias do you see nowadays? The militia are your neighbors, people who are going to be coming to your defense in the event SHTF, So that's like the basis of the video that I wanted to lay out. And then there have been so many stupid takes. I'm talking like dumber than a second coat of paint. There were actually a few clips. So if you bear with me one moment, I'll show you here. It was what Trudeau said, because now Trudeau, of course, no dictator, no tyrant, no matter how soft-spoken and soft that they are, won't hesitate to jump at an opportunity to take more rights away from their own people, even if the event happened in a different country. So I'm going to show you this clip from Trudeau, who is banning handguns and then referencing the U.S. as south of the border, and then this idiot trying to, make light of that whole comment. So let's take a look.
We need only look south of the border to know that if we do not take action firmly and rapidly, it gets worse and worse.
Something pretty striking about that phrase he used, right? South of the border to describe us, the United States. It's a phrase you hear so often in this country by people who are kind of denigrating Mexico as a supposedly lawless land of, ultra-violence. That's how they see us.
So you can see there that the idiot came out and said, that's how they see us. And he was talking about how here in the U.S. we denigrate Mexico as being some land of lawlessness and whatever. And, that's how Canada sees us right now. It's like, okay, one, you are quite possibly the dumbest news anchor I've ever seen. And that's saying a lot. And then two, denigrating Mexico as if it's some lawless land. Well, let me go ahead and pull a few things up for you. How about this? This is Brit, 37, shot dead in Mexico, was in the, quote, wrong place at the wrong time. A British man shot dead in a supermarket in Mexico was in the wrong place at the wrong time, his family said. Wrong place at the wrong time. That's a very unique way of saying it. Okay. You think that's an isolated incident? Well, let's get something else for you here. How about this? 6 severed heads found on car roof along busy boulevard in southwest Mexico. Look at the date, March 31st, 2022, just a few months ago. This is stuff that happens all the time in Mexico because, I wonder, cartels just get to run wild in Mexico. There doesn't seem to be a huge push to crack down on them and get rid of them because they've been doing this for decades. Just because you get to go to Cancun and whatever resort that you like to go to in Mexico, and you get to sit there and drink a margarita and talk about how fabulous your life is and be like, oh, Mexico is just so great. Yeah, okay, Junior. How about you walk outside the resort into the heart of the city, no bodyguards, by yourself, and see how long you freaking last until you're begging to come back. I'm so sick of these comparisons. It's so disingenuous and so stupid that I can't even believe that it exists in the same reality that I presently reside in. It's so over the top, so stupid, so dumb, and it's just like these people wouldn't last a second in a real SHTF situation. Like, it boggles the mind. And the fact that Trudeau has the nerve to actually say something like that is just, it's so infuriating. And it just proves the point that this guy is just willing to do and say whatever it takes to get as much power as possible to crush anybody who is against him. Anybody who doesn't agree with him 110%. So, continuing with that, I bring you to another real winner here that's in the United States House of Representatives, I believe. This man, Representative Mondaire Jones. So here is his tweet. Time after time, we've given the GOP a chance to help us stop gun violence. And time after time, they've chosen to put their right to kill over our right to live. The time for chances is over. I've had enough. Okay. All right, sir. our putting their right to kill over our right to live. What in God's name are you talking about, sir? Where is it? Where is it exactly that you represent? Oh, that's right. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you represent New York's 17th Congressional District. How's New York doing these days? How's the violence and crime doing there in New York? How about that? How's that? How's it going in New York City? How's it going in downtown, huh? How about the crime there? Or do I need to take you to Chicago or Baltimore or Detroit or San Francisco or Oakland or Los Angeles? I mean, I could go on and on and on, sir. You want to talk about that kind of gun violence? Oh, no, of course not, because it doesn't fit your constituents. It doesn't fit your message. It doesn't fit your plan. And here we go. Here's the insanity right here. This is the type of people that we're dealing with. And I know I don't normally get this animated in these videos, but this is something that really, really bothers me. He says right here, you will not stop us from advancing. If the filibuster obstructs us, we will abolish it. If the Supreme Court objects, we will expand it. What? Okay, so we're just going to tear up the entire institution of government here and overflow the power to these certain branches of government and fill them with people that believe our insanity and agree with us no matter what, and will vote our way, and we'll do whatever it is that we say. Just because we're not getting our way. Just because we're not taking rights away from law-abiding citizens. I'll tell you what, Mondare, how about this? I'll make a deal with you. You end the gun violence in these major cities, and maybe we can have a discussion on gun laws. But we know that's never going to happen, so we don't need to have a discussion on this. So how about you sit down and you actually work to make New York a better place? And don't you dare say that this gun confiscation law is a way to make New York a better place, because we all know damn well that no one is using these guns, buying these guns legally in New York to commit these crimes. Heck, people are being pushed on the subway rails. No guns involved. I don't see you doing anything to stop it. So this guy is a grade A moron who does not. It boggles the mind how he's in a position of power in the U.S. government. Or how about another real winner here, Joe Scarborough, Morning Joe. He really gives coffee a bad name by calling himself Morning Joe. This guy is like, I honestly don't think how anything could be more terrible than his hairstyle, but his opinions really, really take it to the next level. Like, his hairstyle honestly looks like it looks like someone photoshopped his hair onto his head. Like, and Joe, I mean, it's almost unfair to pile on him because he's such a moron that, you know, it's amazing that anybody takes him seriously. But, I mean, these are the people that we have to deal with. All right, so this is what he said. Unfortunately, I don't have the date on this. This was shortly after the incident down in Uvalde. So, quote, how is this going to look 10, 15, 20 years from now that we had members of the U.S. Senate that allowed little children to continue to be gunned down with military weapons? Jesus Christ on a crutch. Oh, that irritates me so much. Because they wanted to protect their constituents' right to shoot prairie dogs and varmints. Like, what on God's green earth are you even talking about? This person is so stupid. He's got his head so far up his own rear end that he honestly does not understand people's rights. People's rights to defend themselves. People's rights to bear arms. People's rights. Period. Period. And you want to talk about children being gunned down? Again, I take you to Chicago, Baltimore, D.C., kids being shot by stray bullets. Where's your bleeding heart for them, Joe? I don't see you taking moments out of your life to go down to Chicago and talk to parents who lost their kid over a street shootout because they were just, quote, in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, oh my God, it's so infuriating listening to this crap. Because, I mean, it's just, I'm like speechless. I'm speechless over the stupidity of this. Because when you come down to it, it's all about being able to protect yourself, okay? And the reason why I say that is for reasons like this. Tim Pool, we were forced to evacuate the studio during the show. Police en route. We'll update. So basically, I don't really, unfortunately, I don't know the details of what happened. I believe he got swatted. But the fact of the matter is this. This happens, and I don't watch Tim Pool really. I've watched some of his videos in way back, like a few years ago. And I've watched a couple live streams when he had certain people on, but not really. I personally don't really care for Tim Pool's content, but I will give credit where credit's due. He really has come around because things have gotten so insane. He's had no choice but to lean more to the right because people on the left are so batshit insane. And I know I try not to curse on this channel, but it's like I can't help it. But this is what we're dealing with. So we were, like he said, we were forced to evacuate. So he has lunatics that are literally swatting him on a regular basis. I mean, I've lost count how many times, like, I've seen tweets from him pop up saying that, police are here, or we've been swatted, or this happened, or now, even now we're being forced to evacuate the studio. Like, it's insane. So you're going to tell me that this guy here, who's a, I guess you could say a prominent social figure, doesn't have the right to have any kind of self-defense whatsoever, and he has to kind of wait for the police to come out to him. You're going to tell me that this, because there's only one way this goes. It only goes up from here. It starts with swatting, and then after a while, the police are just going to stop showing up. So it starts there, and it just escalates. That's all it ever does, is escalate. Until someone gets caught, obviously, but we all know that's not going to happen. So you're going to sit there and tell me that this man doesn't have a right to bear any arms to protect himself from any kind of literal crazy person coming onto his property to do something terrible. You'll never win. You'll never convince me otherwise. I know I'd be armed to the teeth. So you're like, this is the reason. Here's something else. Here's another one. How about this? House Democrats block bid to give Supreme Court justices more security just hours after an armed man was arrested for threatening to kill Brett Kavanaugh at his Maryland home. I could rest my case there. You're going to tell me that this? I mean, I know the justices have security. I believe they have security details, but they need more. And this is kind of a side note, but I find it ironic that people are willing to get violent against these Supreme Court justices over the right to kill a life inside of a womb. The irony is breathtaking. But right here, you're going to tell me that Brett Kavanaugh doesn't have the right to defend himself? You're going to tell me Brett Kavanaugh doesn't have the right to have some self-defense measures inside of his house to protect him against literal lunatics who are outside of his home, and he needs to have the U.S. Marshals protect his property? I mean, and this is a whole other video, but I've touched on it previously, I believe. I can't even remember anymore what I've done in other videos. But, this is nothing short of judge intimidation, which is a felony. Not only federally, but it's a felony in Virginia as well. And this is something that I honestly have a problem with Glenn Youngkin and the Attorney General. They should have ordered these protesters to be arrested immediately, because they're clearly intimidating the judge to change their opinion or their perceived opinion. So I don't know. I feel like I read something that they recently reversed, and they are going to give more security to the justices. But my point still stands. Like, if these people are getting threats and having crazy people attack them, we've already seen what it's like when everyday people voice their opinions and it gets out to the general public, and then they start being harassed in public. We've all seen the social media videos. We've seen the insanity that happens when someone dares to have a different opinion in a certain area. You know, I tell you, all this does is make me want to buy guns even more. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it. I don't think I have anything else to really share. I think I shared okay. These were some of the, I believe, House representatives that voted against the measure. But here's what I wanted. Well, voted against, some Democrats, and then Republicans who voted yes. Kinzinger. Kinzinger is quite possibly the most pathetic senator I've ever seen in my entire life, and I think we need to remove the crying title from crying Chuck Schumer to crying Adam Kinzinger, because that guy is a grade A bitch. He is a grade A loser, wimp, coward. He is a disgrace to this country. He's a disgrace to the chambers of to Congress. He's a disgrace through and through. And I'm glad he's not running for re-election. But then again, I wish he was, because I want to see him get absolutely pummeled in the election and leave and have to leave and concede embarrassingly to his replacement. But of course, he knows that's going to happen. So what does he do? Takes the coward's way out. He's not even going to put up a fight. Oh, I want to retire and do something else. Yeah, okay. I really don't like him. In case it's not obvious. And I don't think a lot of people like him at all. I don't think a lot of people don't like him, Or I don't think a lot of people like him, I should say. And then here, this is what I'll leave everybody with. Chile's new socialist president, Gabriel Boric, vows armed violence will not be tolerated and calls for a total ban on gun ownership. 2 days ago, it was announced that Gabriel Boric will meet Prime Minister Trudeau in Canada on June 6th. Oh, these lunatic dictators always travel in packs. You can always point them out. So with that, stay safe, know your rights, contact your representatives, and let them know that you are vehemently against having your rights taken away from you, even though you did nothing wrong. And stay safe. That's honestly the best thing I can do. Save your money. Do whatever it is you can to get by. And thank you all for watching. I will see you all in the next one.